This Saturday is UFC 298, Alexander Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria for the featherweight title, and this is going to be my full breakdown and prediction, and this main event is so intriguing. You have Alexander Volkanovski, a dominant featherweight champion who's never lost at featherweight in the UFC, coming off a brutal KO loss up a weight class on short notice against the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the world, versus arguably the most dangerous title challenger he's had in his entire career. And when I say dangerous, I don't mean just necessarily the ability to win the fight. Max Holloway was very close to winning the rematch. He was very close to winning the initial fight. But Ilia Topuria has so many ways to finish the fight. He has nasty KO power. He has submission ability. So I think Topuria, you look at him, he's young, undefeated, highly confident going into this fight, but also has the finishing ability. One mistake against Ilia Topuria, and he can put Volkanovski to sleep. That's what makes this fight so intriguing, because typically I feel like most people would be picking Volkanovski, but you add in that X factor that he's coming off that KO loss against Islam Makhachev, and all of a sudden the narrative has completely changed, because you have one guy who's 35 years old, looking like he's on the decline. We don't know for sure if he's actually on the decline. And then you have Ilia Topuria, who is arguably hitting his prime just now, or maybe not even there yet, and he's surging, he's undefeated, and looking better than ever in his last few fights. So this fight is just so intriguing on so many different levels, and I cannot wait for this fight. You look at the tail of the tape for this fight. You have Alexander Volkanovski, 26-3, Ilia Topuria, 14-0. Volkanovski's the champion. Topuria is ranked number 3. Volkanovski is 35. Topuria is 27. Volkanovski is 5'6". Topuria is 5'7". And Volkanovski has a 71.5-inch reach. Topuria has a 69-inch reach. So a 2.5-inch reach advantage for Alexander Volkanovski, which I think a lot of people are looking at that. They're like, Topuria's undefeated. He's so well-rounded. He's, just looking better than ever in his last few fights. And then you look at Volkanovski's side and you're like, you know what? Volkanovski got chinned in his last fight against Islam Makhachev. His time is over. He's 35 years old. I feel like that's the narrative going into this fight. But for my official prediction, and I'm going to do these videos a little bit different. I've been trying to mix it up a little bit. I am going to go Alexander Volkanovski, 4th round TKO. I think he finishes Ilia Topuria in this fight. I think the people counting out Alexander Volkanovski, they're mentally broken by the image of Islam Makhachev head kick KOing Volkanovski, and then following up with those shots just making Volkanovski look like a bobblehead up against the fence. I think the people who are so confident in Topuria, which don't get me wrong, Topuria can win this fight, but the people who are so confident in Topuria, they just can't get that image out of their head. And I think to pick Ilia Topuria in this fight, you basically have to rely on the unknown factor that Volkanovski's chin is gone. I think that's the only way you can pick Ilia Topuria. I get it. Topuria has amazing BJJ. He has amazing submission ability. But I feel like if you're picking Topuria to win this fight, you're picking him to chin Alexander Volkanovski. And I can't bank my prediction on the fact that Topuria clips Volkanovski right on the chin with an absolute kill shot. Even if you go back to the Islam Makhachev head kick KO, Volkanovski partially blocked that, and then it hit the top of his head, hurt him badly, and basically he was done after that. But that's Islam Makhachev. I think Islam Makhachev is leaps and bounds better on the feet than Ilia Topuria. And I know people kind of consider Topuria this striker, this knockout puncher. He's primarily a grappler. I think Topuria's biggest threat is if you have like a moment in time where Volk's throwing a leg kick and Topuria catches him with a shot, knocks him off balance, doesn't hurt him, but knocks him off balance, he slips to the ground, Topuria jumping down, starting to lock up a guillotine or a Darce choke or an anaconda. I think that's where Topuria is most dangerous, and I really believe when you look at this fight, I think Topuria has to find a finish. I cannot imagine a world where Topuria goes out there and 49-46 is Alexander Volkanovski or 50-45 is Alexander Volkanovski. I don't see that happening. I think he has to catch him with a big shot and put him away. I think the most likely path to victory for Ilia Topuria is a KO. But I could see him maybe finding a submission on one of those moments, again, like I mentioned, catching Volkanovski off balance, him ending up on the canvas, and then Topuria locking up a submission. I just think Volkanovski's too smart. He's too good. I understand he's 35 years old, but he's still getting better with every single fight. And to take a challenge against Islam Makhachev on short notice is no easy task at all. He had the deck stacked against him in that fight. Of course he's not going to win that fight, in my opinion. I thought he had no chance winning that fight, and I absolutely despised that fight when it was announced. How are you going to take on Islam Makhachev on short notice when you already lost to him? And I know people act like Volkanovski got robbed in that fight. Volkanovski lost 4-1. He lost 4-1. Islam Makhachev outstruck him and outgrappled him in that fight, the first fight at UFC 284. Volkanovski had a good showing, don't get me wrong. A lot of people were acting like Islam was going to completely dominate him. And I know 4-1 sounds dominant, but it was a much more competitive fight than my scorecard kind of indicates. And Volkanovski, look what he did. He won the 5th round because of his cardio, because of his gas tank. He was able to win the 5th round against a guy like Islam Makhachev, who I think would literally blow Ilia Topuria out of the water. I don't think Topuria would touch Makhachev. I don't think he'd be able to grapple with Makhachev. I think Topuria would get destroyed by Makhachev. So there's levels to this game. And you look at their levels of experience. Volkanovski, I mean, look at the resume. And it doesn't matter wins or losses. But, you know, the only 2 losses in the UFC for Volkanovski is Islam Makhachev. But listen to this level of competition. Islam Makhachev twice at lightweight, up a weight class. Yair Rodriguez, Max Holloway times 3. Chan Sung Jung. I know that's not the, you know, the Korean Zombie was kind of a dead body at that point. Brian Ortega, Jose Aldo, Chad Mendes. Then he gets to his early UFC career. Darren Elkins, Jeremy Kennedy, Shane Young. Okay, we're getting to his very early UFC career. But from very early on, Chad Mendes was one of the elite at the time he fought him. Jose Aldo, that's the last time I picked against Alexander Volkanovski, was against Jose Aldo. I picked Jose Aldo to beat Volkanovski. Ever since then, I've picked Volkanovski in every fight at featherweight. Only fights I picked against him were both Islam Makhachev fights. And obviously, that's, you know, he went up a weight class. I wasn't expecting him to win those fights. But I think he overperformed specifically in that first fight at UFC 284, where he's able to defend some of the takedowns, where he was able on the ground to defend some of the submission attempts from Islam Makhachev. And that's where I'm looking at Topuria. I don't think Topuria has anywhere the level of offensive grappling or offensive wrestling to get the fight to the ground and work a submission. And we've seen Volkanovski in bad situations before. That guillotine attempt against Brian Ortega where, you know, he kind of got knocked off balance, ended up on the ground. Ortega just jumps on a guillotine. I don't, you know, see Topuria being able to find those types of submissions. I think that's his only real chance of getting a submission. But I don't think, you know, Volkanovski almost looks like he's impossible to submit. So you basically have to bank on the fact that Topuria is going to KO him. Volkanovski had got finished by Islam Makhachev via KO. The last time he got finished by KO was all the way back in 2013 in his 4th ever fight. His 4th ever fight where he got caught with the head kick back then too. I just don't see it happening. Volkanovski has amazing fight IQ. I think he's going to come out in this fight. I think he's going to chop the lead leg of Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria in his fights kind of hunches down. He's become in love with his striking. He's super confident. He's undefeated. He's young. He's never tasted defeat. He comes in, he kind of hunches down, and he looks to just find big shots. He loves leaping in with a big right hook, and then he follows it up with a left hook to the body. He does it all the time. Volkanovski's going to be studying that. He's going to see those tendencies. And Volkanovski, I understand, you know, people are kind of questioning his headspace coming in this fight. You know, he's talking about, oh, I was drinking every day. And, you know, he kind of took the loss to Islam Makhachev tough. I understand that could be the beginning of Volkanovski falling off a cliff. But I look at it as another way. Like, he's more motivated than ever. He's like, I'm not going to take 2 losses in a row. I just got KO'd by Islam Makhachev. I lost my shot of ever becoming a double champion now. I'm going to go out there and take it out on Ilia Topuria. You look at Ilia Topuria's resume, and I've been high on Ilia Topuria for a while. I think Ilia Topuria could win this fight. But you look at his resume, I mean, he's fighting Josh Emmett in his last fight. You know what Volk would do to Josh Emmett? He would have got Josh Emmett out of there. And Ilia Topuria beat him from start to finish, fair enough. But even in that fight, Josh Emmett was finding some shots on the feet. Josh Emmett is so predictable. He just kind of squats down and throws a big right hand. Fight before that, Bryce Mitchell arguably lost to Dan Ige. Bryce Mitchell is a guy who just is, I mean, he lost to Josh Emmett. He just got brutalized by Josh Emmett. I thought he lost to Dan Ige. Bryce Mitchell is just a decent grappler who's kind of scrappy. You know, that's nowhere even close to anybody. I mean, that doesn't even, Bryce Mitchell and Josh Emmett are Topuria's best wins. That doesn't even come close to sniffing Alexander Volkanovski's resume. And I know resume isn't everything, but before that, a win over Jai Herbert. Herbert's like top 30 at best, Before that, Ryan Hall, just a jiu-jitsu guy who was rolling around on the ground, and Joe Rogan's like, oh my God, this is so crazy. And then boom, gets brutally KO'd by Topuria. Fight before that, Damon Jackson. Fight before that, Yusuf Zalal, where he won a decision. That's his UFC debut. I just don't think the resume is even close. And I understand everyone has their flaw. I've been talking about it for a while. We have to appreciate these guys in the special moment in time that they're in because they're performing at such a high level. And then eventually like that, it's gone. And I do think there is a chance the Islam Makhachev head kick KO might be the point where Volkanovski goes from surging to all of a sudden falling off a cliff. It doesn't look good. You know, there's that stat floating around that no champion or no title fights from guys 35 or older from lightweight down have ever won a title fight. 35 and over, some stat like that. I know that's against Volkanovski, but Volkanovski isn't your average fighter. Volkanovski is so incredible everywhere. And in this fight, I think he's the better striker. I think he's better than Topuria on the feet. I think he'll be chopping that leg of Topuria. I think Topuria kind of is predictable. You look at his fights, he's kind of throwing the same combinations, and he likes to throw big power shots. Could he clip Volkanovski? Yes. We've seen him get dropped by Max Holloway. We've seen him caught with shots before. Obviously, Islam Makhachev caught him. But I think we're going to have to basically count on Volkanovski's chin being completely gone because it's not like Topuria is going to find that shot over and over and over again. I don't see that happening. I think Volkanovski might take a couple shots where we really test his chin out in this fight. But I don't think there's going to be this one crazy KO shot that just sleeps Volkanovski. And if that doesn't happen, I think Volkanovski's better on the feet. I think Volkanovski can out-offensively wrestle Ilia Topuria, and I believe he will mix that in. We've seen in the Bryce Mitchell fight, Topuria got taken down for the last minute of the first round and controlled by Bryce Mitchell. If Bryce Mitchell can do that, you bet Alexander Volkanovski can do that. And I think Volkanovski is going to come out early, be very safe. I think he's going to be kicking to that lead leg of Topuria because he's so, heavy on that lead leg to wind up with big shots. And I think Volkanovski's going to have a perfect game plan. I think he's going to chop that leg, kind of wait for Topuria to kind of swing himself out a little bit, start to burn some of that stamina. And also, when he's taking out that lead leg, he takes a little bit of punching power away from Topuria because that leg's damaged. He can't plan on it as much as he once was. And I think Volkanovski is going to fight super smart in the first round. I think maybe even Topuria steals the first round. Maybe he's pumping the jab, landing a couple good shots of his own. Volkanovski's kind of playing it safe because maybe he is a little bit emotionally affected from that Islam Makhachev KO. We never know how these guys are going to return. They come back after getting KO'd, they're super tentative. So maybe he is tentative early. Maybe he loses the first round. But I think once he starts to feel his rhythm, I think he's the better striker. His shot selection is unbelievable. I'll never forget. Yair's shelling up against the fence, and Volkanovski's just ripping a perfectly placed body shot, and then he's ripping upstairs, and then as soon as he's ripping upstairs, Yair gets his guard even higher, and then boom, Volkanovski shoots in on a double leg, takes him down, and finishes him. I think Volkanovski in this fight is going to dictate a pace after round one that I don't know if Topuria can keep up with. We know what Volkanovski's cardio looks like. We've seen Topuria in a 5-round fight against Josh Emmett, but that was I don't want to say it was a slow-paced fight, but it's nowhere near the pace that Volkanovski can put on you. And I think Volkanovski, after that first round, he's really going to start opening up. He's really going to start reaping some of those benefits from those leg kicks, slowing the movement of Topuria. He's going to be seeing Topuria's shots coming a little bit better, and I think he's going to be countering him. And he does have that reach advantage. He uses that reach advantage very well. I know it's only, a 2.5-inch reach advantage, but he uses a lot of straight shots. He mixes in the jab. He's very good at switching stances as well. He'll throw like a right hook and then use that to kind of switch stances and throw, boom, a left straight. It's weird how you'll see Volkanovski throw combinations from such weird angles. He'll throw a shot and look unbalanced, and then all of a sudden he just uses that to set up another shot out of the different stance. So Volkanovski, I think his striking's way better. I know he's been clipped by shots, but I'm watching Ilia Topuria versus Bryce Mitchell. I'm seeing Bryce Mitchell land good combinations on Topuria. Obviously not enough to win the fight, but landing some good shots. Volkanovski is night and day better than Bryce Mitchell. I'm seeing Josh Emmett land some good shots. I think Volkanovski's way better. He's going to land way more shots. He has way better combinations. And unless his chin is gone, and Topuria just plants one on his chin, I just don't see how he gets it done. I really don't. Because Volkanovski is so good everywhere. And I think Volkanovski is going to mix in that offensive grappling. I see Volkanovski taking Topuria down and controlling him on the mat. I don't think he's going to do a whole lot of damage with it, but we've seen Volkanovski when he's on top. We've seen what he did with the ground and pound with Brian Ortega, and that's going to tire out Ilia Topuria, especially over the course of a 5-round fight. And I think the pace in that second and third round, I think Topuria is going to start to slow down. I think he's going to realize, okay, there's levels to this game, and he's going to start to be more aggressive and look for that kill shot that he's never going to find. And I think by the time we get to the 4th round, I think Topuria is going to get a little bit more reckless, but he's also going to be a little bit more tired. Meanwhile, you're going to have a fresh Volkanovski, and I think Volkanovski is really going to start to open up on Ilia Topuria, and his leg is going to be compromised, and Volkanovski is really going to start to find his rhythm. And I think Topuria is going to start to gas out a bit in that 4th round. And I think in that 4th round, you're going to have Volkanovski find a big shot on Topuria, hurt him badly, maybe mix in a takedown or maybe drop him. You know, if he mixes in the takedown similar to the kind of the Yair Rodriguez finish, and then just take him down and just beat him up. Ilia Topuria is just not going to have enough gas in the tank to kind of defend or get out of a bad situation when we get to that mid-4th round, late 4th round. I think Topuria has to stop him early. Otherwise, Volkanovski will win this fight. So if Topuria wins, I think it'll be like a 1st or 2nd round KO. But the later the fight goes, even if Topuria gets the first 2 rounds, unless he's completely outclassing him, I think Volkanovski is going to come back and win this fight. I think he might be tentative early. He's going to have the KO shot from Islam Makhachev in the back of his head. But I think as the fight goes on, there's nobody better at making adjustments. Look at the fight against Max Holloway. I believe it was the 2nd fight. He lost the first 2 rounds, even got dropped in the 1st round, I believe it was, with an uppercut. He wins 3, 4, and 5. I know that's a controversial fight, but I scored it 3, 4, and 5 for Volkanovski. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility. Volk kind of plays it safe early, mixes in the kind of the clinch work and, you know, chops at the leg, and maybe Topuria lands some good shots with his hands, and maybe Topuria kind of ekes out the first 2 rounds. Boom, Volkanovski knows the championship mindset, 3, 4, and 5. He starts to turn it up and turn it on. And I think in that 4th round, by the time that 4th round comes around, midway through, almost to the end of the 4th round, I think Topuria is going to be tired. I think at that point, Volkanovski will have taken him down a couple times, beat him up on the ground a little bit. I don't think that's going to be his primary focus, but I think he will mix it in just to get Topuria thinking about it. Topuria keeps his guard very high and throws big, huge looping shots. It's, you know, there's no way Volkanovski is going to see that takedown and not take it. So I think Volkanovski, just the cardio's too good. The experience level's too good. Look at the level he's fought. I mean, look at the level of competition he's fought on his resume. And I think it's just a little bit too soon for Ilia Topuria. And also, I think Topuria is a little bit overconfident going into this fight. And I think he's going to try really hard to get that 1st round KO. He wants to deliver on that 1st round KO. And I think once he doesn't find it, he's going to be lost out there against Alexander Volkanovski. So I'm going Alexander Volkanovski, 4th round TKO. Clips him with the big shot in the 4th round. Topuria's already a bit tired. And then Volkanovski just swarms him and finishes him late 4th round. Let me know what you guys think of the pick down in the comments. Let me know who you're picking in this fight. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.